Good evening, you guys. Jerry here. We're going to talk briefly about the Sedition Act of 1918, and we're also going to take a look at how it actually applies to some recent circumstances and what people are saying about that as well. So the Sedition Act of 1918 was enacted during World War I, and it made it a crime to willfully utter, print, write, or publish any disloyal, profane, or abusive language about the form of government in the United States. The act, along with other similar federal laws, was used to convict at least 877 people in 1919 and 1920, according to a report by the Attorney General. In 1919, the court had also heard several important free speech cases, and so that involved constitutionality of the law. And so there is a difference between sedition and free speech. And so we're going to take a look at this. Sedition is defined by Merriam-Webster as incitement of resistance to or insurrection against lawful authority. Many would claim that sedition is not as serious as outright treason. However, sedition is a felony. If you are proven guilty for sedition, the alleged seditionists may be charged to pay fines and may serve up to 20 years in prison for that crime. The federal law against seditious conspiracy can be found in Title 18 of the U.S. Code, and it also includes treason and rebellion. The Sedition Act was originally signed into law by John Adams in the late 1700s. It was meant to protect the United States from traitors who might use words to provoke people into malicious acts against the United States, Congress, and or the President. Interestingly enough, the act did not include speaking a violation against the Vice President of the U.S. So the act was officially retired by 1801, and at that point, President Jefferson allowed people who had been charged with sedition to go free. The Sedition Act of 1918 was enacted because there were people who had migrated to America from other countries. The fear was the new immigrants and their families would incite harm on America and America's people, or they would try to help their home country instead of helping the country in which they currently lived. The act would also allow reporters to be put in jail for speaking against the United States and criticizing war. Proving sedition was a difficult task, though. The government had to be able to prove two or more people planned to overthrow the government. In other words, they had to show it was premeditated. And there have been times throughout history that people have been put into prison and jail because of sedition. Sedition is not currently thought of as someone who disagrees with the president and they write it in an article or they speak it on television or even on social media. Some examples of sedition, though, are an attempt to overthrow or destroy the U.S. government, to force, delay, hinder, or prevent law of the United States, and taking the government or a government building by force. In January 2021, Merriam-Webster reported that sedition was the most searched word on their site within hours of the Capitol being stormed. In the New York Times article, there was a reporter who explained America's long-standing use of the word sedition. President Joe Biden is quoted as saying the incident was borderline seditious, but others disagree, and they say the word is archaic and misunderstood. Historically, though, the Act of Sedition of 1918 made it illegal to willfully utter, print, write, or publish any disloyal, profane, or abusive language, remember? And so it had to be actual threats and against the government and against its stability or its function. Some present scholars and analysts have defined the rush on the Capitol as a protest instead of sedition. They say that the protest is not illegal and is protected by the First Amendment. And they also say that President Trump's acts were as well, that they were not illegal. But now some say when the riot turned and it became a riot and protesters were trespassing into the Capitol and preventing government for their operations, that this was seditious. These two acts really are not protected by the First Amendment. If somebody trespasses or if they have some issues and with the operations of government. So a person also lost their life that day. So federal prosecutors have charged 70 people with crimes on that day. in such a confusing period in history, the thing that we must remember about the Sedition Act of 1918 is there was a phrase, and the phrase that was in that act said, when the United States is at war. Just some things to think about. See you guys soon. Bye.